hands up here. You're pretty popular. Um, so next we have, do we have the slide? Oh, thank you. For Matthew Shadbolt is our next presenter, and I'm really, really excited that he's going to be here, and I urge you to really, really pay attention. He's going to be talking about the 3 social innovation trends worth watching in 2013, and if there is anyone who knows about social trends, it is Matthew Shadbolt, the Director of Interactive Product and Marketing with the Corcoran Group here in New York. Please follow them on Twitter. Please follow him on Twitter. He's absolutely amazing. So come on up, Matthew. Super excited. That's for you.
Hi, everyone. Everybody hear me okay? Hey, hi. Yeah, thanks so much, Laura, for the kind words. I get the much coveted and much sought after right before lunch speech. So here we go. Okay. So today I'm going to read you a series of 3 short stories. And why is that? Well, it's because I believe that storytelling is at the heart of communities, families, and cultures. And it's also at the heart of memories. And it's the most shareable type of content that has ever existed on and offline. And as a digital marketer, especially here in New York, I believe it's in the DNA of what it feels like to own a home. I'm going to share with you some of the things we've learned from Corcoran's digital journey over the past 5 years, and how we've been able to aggressively grow our brand during one of the worst housing markets in history, inside of one of the most competitive markets in the world. I'm going to show you how to skate where the puck is going to be, not towards where it is right now. But before we get to that, I want to share a few words about attention. What we're increasingly seeing, and no more acutely than in the real estate industry, but also across other verticals such as news, sports, shopping, and entertainment, is the gamification of attention spans. This does nothing except to transform marketing into a pointless real-world game of geek chess. Whether it's keyword inclusions, garnering backlinks to serve page view-driven advertising models, or just relentlessly producing link bait with pointless infographics that are a crime against both data and visuals, it seems that today many companies will do whatever they can to generate a disproportionate share of attention. Look at me, I made you click. I want to share a story about how we think about this climate at Corcoran. Now, for anyone who follows local sports here in New York City, you'll know that the return of Brooklyn Nets basketball to Atlantic Avenue is a really big deal. And a really big real estate deal, literally. I want to borrow the example of a story that writer Jay Baer shared from that world to make a larger point about ours. Mike D'Antoni of the Los Angeles Lakers is one of the world's most successful head coaches and has a thesis for how and why his up-tempo offensive style works. He says the ball finds energy, and I want you to keep this in mind as you plan for 2013. He says when players work hard to get open and move without the ball, they receive many, many shot opportunities in favorable on-court situations. And this benefits each and every player because they get more shots overall, which consequently benefits the entire team. This is the same way the best marketing and advertising works, especially in a context and sales-driven industry like ours. In this kind of climate, attention accrues and should accrue to the hard-working, smart companies with disproportionately good products and services. And winners should be dictated by customers voting with their clicks and their dollars. I believe that products, services, and their related marketing efforts should be a meritocracy, like the high-speed motion offense the Lakers employ. I believe this is best for the customer. But too often, this isn't what happens. Sometimes all that takes place is the gamification of attention. And numerous times, especially with real estate, it's the new trend of large technology companies buying out feature-driven social media software businesses and forcing their customers into an unnatural behavior to use them as part of what they call a stack, a theoretically holistic solution that very rarely offers best-in-class options across the board. Features are never products. And every time marketing strays from being a meritocracy, some companies win, but customers always lose. I believe that it's time to create disproportionately amazing products and offer best-in-class services. There's no room for 3 or even 4-star reviews anymore. It's excellence or obscurity. I believe that it's never been easier to be average. And executing on excellence is everyone's responsibility. Simply put, the only return worth focusing on is the return on amazing. And with that in mind, I want to carve out 3 fat, fertile spaces of innovation where I think there's enormous opportunity for us all to create these disproportionately incredible experiences this year. I believe that those who can create products around these 3 ideas in 2013 will grow their businesses in the most aggressive, innovative ways. Will you join me on the journey?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's go. The first is something I'm going to call fluid mobility. This focuses on how content travels between the things that you do in and around what the customer's already doing, and how you can create a measurable path in those spaces between the platforms you're using. It's definitely true, especially as we've heard all morning in relation to social media, that there's simply hundreds of things that you could be doing. I want to focus on what you and your customers are doing right now, and perhaps get you to think about both a little differently. One thing we can be absolutely certain of is that the internet reaches real estate customers in more ways and in more places than ever before. It's not a fixed place any longer, and as a result, marketers need to develop fluid, flexible, and fun approaches to reaching customers based on what they're doing, in the moment. This is much more than just a context of disruption now. It's reaching the right customer at the right time and in the right place, based on what they're doing right now. That's a lot of rights. And we need to think about how the things we're building, sharing, and distributing across the web specifically travel between the platforms and how they're received and perceived by our potential customers. I'm talking about sharing. So let's take the traditional premise of sharing neighborhood information. A few years ago, the blogging community was all about writing what they call owned, localized media. Insight and information about what it felt like to live in a particular neighborhood, for example. A great fit for an industry predicated on location, 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 of course. But what mobile does is untether that production from the context of being consumed indoors by someone sat down, clicking with a mouse. It means that neighborhood information is fluid and can reach anyone at any time. It means neighborhood information isn't and shouldn't be fixed. Think about this in the fluid context of what we do here in New York. Times Square is a very different place in the morning than it is in the evening. It's also a very different place when it rains versus when it snows. Time of day, the weather, localized forces such as nearby events, and of course, what those you're connected to online also like to do there, are all important factors when attempting to answer the question, what does it feel like to live here? And what it does is it multiplies your content strategy in a way that morphs around the user. Producing for time of day and owning specific hours is a really good place to start here in combination with location. Editing for context and specific placement becomes essential. Have a wonderful breakfast tip for where to eat on the Upper East Side? Don't surface that at 5 p.m. when people are heading home from work. What about that amazing cocktail bar that only locals know about? Try not to have that found by your customers at 9 a.m. Although some of you here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What about advice for where to grab the best views of the city from those amazing rooftop bars? Don't surface that in January when it's 20 degrees outside. Okay? It's much more than just understanding the context of how your content is being found, though. And it's more than just working with an ecosystem of social platforms. It's much more than disruptive context, like I said before. It's introducing people to new audiences and new content across multiple devices, reaching them where they are, not where you are. Facebook's new graph search is built upon exactly this idea. And it's not being afraid to support it with advertising either. Conversations already fragment across multiple platforms, and thinking about how your content travels across them allows you to measure them in ways that are much more meaningful than simply chalking up vanity metrics like likes and comments. Supporting that process with paid visibility is one way to ensure consistent growth. Conversations travel across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. The same conversation goes between platforms. Based on understanding how users move between the platforms by using referral analytics and clickstream insights, Corcoran is able to fully understand the rich tapestry of data that our users are creating, especially over time. And these insights are incredibly valuable to us. Data is the soil in which ideas grow. It also allows us to move towards more meaningful conversations, such as how long we're able to sustain a customer's attention, how valuable that attention is, and how we should direct our resources, and how relevant and valuable we can make each and every experience. The second area of opportunity I want to share with you is actually everyone's responsibility. And that's the importance of baking social practice into every facet of your organization, especially for brokerages. Social is no longer the siloed responsibility of the marketing department. Social and brand awareness is no longer the exclusive domain of brand marketers, and those responsibilities are getting increasingly blurred, particularly between the IT and marketing departments inside of brokerages. Simply put, the importance of social recommendations and brand reputation management, especially for a referral-centric industry like ours, and where the value of what we do is highly in question online, is swiftly becoming the difference between staying in business or not. The culture of disintermediation is a very, very real opportunity for competitive differentiation. And it's a fragile, fickle beast. It can break years of digital equity with a single tweet. We know that very well here in New York. Poor customer service from one agent still impacts the work of those providing stellar experiences. Your work doesn't exist in isolation from the work of those that aren't here at Reboot this morning. And it applies to organizations of all sizes, meaning individuals, national brokerages, and everyone in between. That process, however much we might want to kid ourselves that it's an offline one, is an increasingly digital practice, and it's claiming scalps every year. It seems to be working its way through the alphabet right now with the Bs. Best Buy, Blockbuster, Borders, and dare I say it, BlackBerry. What I'm talking about here is the importance of thinking holistically about the use of social media. Reputation management, especially digital brand management, extends from the people on the front desk answering calls right through to the CEO and everyone in between. I think niche blogs within organizations are great tactical examples of this in action. For example, Zillow and Trulia's developer blogs showcase what they're thinking about in ways that demonstrate leadership, invite conversation, and speak authoritatively to specific communities. If you really want to understand where the puck is moving in syndication, I'd strongly encourage you to spend more time here and less time discussing it ad nauseum inside of impotent Facebook groups. Thank you. So, see what they're working on. Okay, social practice has the capacity to destroy silos, increase transparency, and perhaps importantly, augment augment productivity. Transparent and open organizations are able to build customer trust faster and stronger than others. And untethering everyone from the tyranny of having to be in the office through mobile platforms is the obvious key to this. The way I think of this is that the increasingly blurred relationship between the CIO and the CMO within a brokerage is going to shape how organizations such as ours ultimately touch customers. And there's also an important semantic aspect to this. We don't have clients, customers, visitors, followers, fans, subscribers, or users. We don't have any of those people. If you're really serious about building your business online, then think sales, and sales only. You have customers, nothing else. Now, the last thing I want to share with you concerns what I'm going to refer to as digital white space. And by this, I mean using trend analysis to predict emergent digital behavior in both the immediate and long-term futures. To do this, we need to frame this as a conversation about convergence and where you're allocating your time and resources. Keeping people moving between the platforms in ways that optimize time spent with you and your content is a healthy place to be, especially in relation to mobile. Bounce rates are your enemy, and spending money to reduce them is critical. And let's simplify this by looking at the relationship between three things. The first is what you have. We call this owned media. This is your listings, your insight, the content that can only come from you. It's what's inside your head, and it's the most important innovation play you have. From that, many of you in this room are supporting that process through social platforms, augmenting it with what we call earned media. This, as we see from the chart here, includes things like asking for things to be shared and growing your brand's distribution, referral, and relationship network inside of platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Earned media also includes things like press coverage and people talking favorably about what you do elsewhere. It's a powerful place to focus, but it doesn't exist in isolation. And finally, investing in your online presence with paid media, such as advertising or deliberately promoted content, complements and supports earned and owned media neatly and ensures that the other two grow consistently. Investing is essential for sustaining visibility. Display advertising's time has passed, so it's time to get creative. Where it all comes together is in the center, where the media converges. It's literally the bullseye. A deliberate strategy of fluid mobility is also directly in the epicenter of this approach. Now, before I leave you, I want to share some final thoughts about where things are headed. Looking for emergent cultural behaviors and skating towards them not only gives you first adopter advantage, it also allows you to give them more thought than your competitors ever could. It allows you to stop playing catch-up and start playing innovation. I'll finish on three massive areas of opportunity for the next few years that I'm thinking about this year. First, what happens on a Sunday morning is incredibly important to our industry, especially in New York. Second, what's not happening on Facebook is becoming increasingly more interesting. And third, the transformation of bits into atoms via 3D printing poses some incredible spaces of opportunity for all industries, but especially ours. Now, as Laura mentioned earlier, I'm at Corcoran_group on Twitter, and I love conversations like this. I hope you enjoyed my stories.